Update in the attack and robbery of an off-duty police officer in the Bronx. 27-year-old officer was critically hurt. Police have one suspect in custody and have just released the name of the second suspect that they're searching for. Taveon Hargrove was taken into custody Tuesday morning in Virginia by U.S. Marshals. Police sources say he's awaiting extradition back to New York City to face charges. Detectives are now seeking a second individual in this case, 23-year-old Lucas Wayne. Police ask anyone with any information to contact them. Joining us now for insight on this is CBS News law enforcement contributor and former deputy commissioner with the NYPD, Richard Esposito. Hi, Richard.
Good morning.
So tell me, what happens next in this process?
So what happens next? The prosecutors and police in New York will work with those in Virginia, and it's going to be probably pretty straightforward unless there's some very serious crime we don't know about that was committed in Virginia that authorities there would want to detain him for. He'll be back in New York in no time.
Okay, so as we all know, an attack on a police officer is a major crime. Since the officer is off duty, does that change any of the charges that these suspects could be facing?
You know, that's a really good question. Any assault is a horrible crime, and an assault on a police officer is considered an assault on society. He was off duty. So the question becomes the legal standard, which is, when did they know he was a police officer? So they may not have known at the outset. He doesn't appear to have been in uniform. But when they started going through his possessions, his wallet would probably have his ID in it. His gun was another good clue. And at that point, prosecutors could argue they knew he was a cop and the charges should be even stiffer and the penalty should be stiffer.
So you mentioned his gun, his revolver was taken by these guys after they beat him. How common is it for officers to carry their weapons while they're off duty?
In the past, it used to be a requirement, and it was changed because, officers go out and have a drink with their friends, are in places where, there's more of a risk for carrying a gun than there might be for not. But it's very common for officers to carry their gun off duty, and it's encouraged in many places for them to do so.
I know this is obviously a huge concern for the NYPD and for this officer. You never obviously like to allow anyone access to your weapon, especially with a situation like this where you're in an assault in an alley in the middle of the night. How concerning is this, not only for the NYPD, but again, for the officers to get this weapon back?
It could have been far worse than it was, and it was pretty bad. He could have been shot with his own weapon. That has happened in the past. What's really concerning, Chris, is it seems like assaults on cops just keep going up recently. Bit fingers, bit ears, a beat down in Times Square, and now this.
It just seems as though, yes, that society become a little bit more brazen when it does come to law enforcement from the things that we see, as you mentioned, on social media and things of that nature. Let me ask you this. Are you, I guess, pleasantly surprised with how quick they were able to apprehend this guy all the way in Virginia?
I'm really happy with how quickly they moved, and I was particularly pleased how the U.S. Marshals, when the task force arrested the father of Hargrove for using this cop's credit card, they used the handcuffs of the officer to restrain him and take him into custody.
Incredible. Just, when you hear some of this stuff, you just say to yourself, it's unbelievable. All right, Richard, thank you. I'm going to stop there before I say something that might get me in trouble. CBS News law enforcement contributor Richard Esposito. Richard, thank you. We'll talk to you next week.
Good to see you.
All right. And for more of our conversations with Richard on public safety, head to our website, cbsnewyork.com.